What is up, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of the Sunday Slaughter podcast. And today it's a full house. We have Charles on the mic. What's up, Charles?
What I do, everybody, and what's happening?
Always bringing the energy. I love it. We also have Dakota from the Roll 'Em If You Got 'Em podcast. What's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Of course. And then we have special guest Dave from Small Council Radio. What's going on?
Not much. Thank you for having me.
Let's just get right into it. Charles, if you want to take point on this one, I know that you had some ideas on today's episode, so let's just get right into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So for all you guys who are finally getting back to On the Table Gaming, IRL, props to you. We're glad everybody stayed safe through the pandemic and we get to roll dice again. But with the 2021 update, meta talks and nonsense aside, the internet's a buzz with information, good, bad, or indifferent. We're finally getting to play games again. And I want to talk a little trash and a little excitement about what lists got everybody up in arms and ready to put it on the table, or even what lists have been wrestling your jimmies a little bit. If your boy's playing a list you can't beat, I just want to talk about it a little bit. A little beer and pretzels dojoing here about lists we're excited about and maybe things we're excited about painting. So how about you guys? I don't know. Let's see what's Dave from Small Council. What are you guys running over there on the your part of the world?
We have a ton of people that are super excited for Greyjoys. I myself picked up 3 starters, Hero Box, 2 Iron Makers, and 2 Trappers. And I am close to halfway done with all of it, painting it. So I'm super excited to kind of just get it all done and on the table. Overall, I would say Euron Greyjoy is what I'm having the most fun with at the moment.
Yeah, I'm on the fence about Euron, man. I'm on a Balon kick right now. What about you guys?
My only experience with Greyjoys as of yet was running them in a TTS tournament, and it was 1.6 rules with Greyjoys, and it was not fun.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. I ran them in Slaughterhouse and felt the same way.
Yeah, but I hear a lot of good things on online and people's experience with them in 1.7. It seems like they're having more of a balanced experience with them. So,
all right. So, Dave, are you painting 3 different Victorians? Is that what you're painting out of the 3 bottle boxes? I mean, you're clearly a man of excess here. I want to know what the paint scheme's looking like.
So I picked up because I wanted to kind of paint a little faster, but not sacrifice too much good detail. I picked up the contrast Citadel paint Achelian green. Comes out as a really awesome, like kind of deep, like a deep blue sea, like teal. So it's a teal, but it leans a little more towards the blue.
Yeah.
And so I've been loving the way it's coming out. That's probably the only contrast I'm going to use, and then I'm going to paint all of the metal parts of them, like the helm and the weapons, probably just iron, to kind of represent the Ironborn theme of Greyjoys.
I got a question for you, Dave. How are you basing them? Because I've seen a lot of crazy stuff on Facebook of people painting up their Greyjoys, and I like the creativity that I'm seeing from the community. But are you doing any of the like the water effects and stuff like that?
No, I'm going a little more basic. I fear since Greyjoys spend a majority of the the books fighting in the north, I'm actually just going to base them similar to my Starks, but I guess with a little more detail. I'll adding some rocks and like sticks and to represent the fact that they're fighting in the north for the most part, and in doing so will also match up with my neutrals. So anytime I use my neutrals with my Greyjoys, they'll all be based at least very close, because my neutrals are based identical to my Starks for that very reason.
Nice.
And Dakota, you were saying, once you go contrast, never go back. What are you painting, man? What's on your hobby table right now?
Actually, I have R'hllor Faithful sitting on mine right now, and yeah, I'm all about the contrast. I actually did some of these in my initial test one with not contrast, and I'm like, all right, I got to do them all like this now, and I'm just like, why? Why didn't I just use contrast? It's so much quicker. And since I'm
So
not that
speed
great
is
of a
key right
painter,
now
I'm
for
like,
you, man.
yeah, because I have like 2 units of those guys to go. I'll have some Kingsmen to do. I mean, I have a pile of unpainted stuff, and it's just like I got way too many to sit here for 3 hours on
Yeah,
24 little models.
very the glow up this update for sure. The new releases coming out, updates to some faction models that are already out. How are you feeling about lists? We're just looking at running.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it. I think there is some really good things. I know that they had the Kingsmen and Queensmen. They're the new hot things. Um, I'm putting them in list. I was a little down on them. I think I like them. I think I like them pretty well. I think they're going to be some good stuff. And I've strangely I kind of want to. I don't think it'll work, but I want to try just this elite 6 activation, just 2+ armor basically everywhere, and see if I can win by just not dying ever. I mean, that's what we do.
Even when they go to like 7 activations, because like wardens in a forest or a wall, it's 2+ unit, right? Wardens are fantastic. Their little glow up has been pretty dope as far as upgrading to with Counter Strike and everything else. I'm pretty hype on like the Baratheon core units right now. I think Sentinels look cool, fantastic at their points, and Wardens too. If I was to play a Baratheon list, I think I'd be abusing the Sentinel rule and the counter charge from it pretty aggressively, I think. What about you, Chris? What are you doing, man? What are you up to?
I've gotten 4 games in with the 1.7 update, 2 of which were with Carl, who is Dakota's co-host in his podcast. I recorded the first match, which was a battle report. I played Baratheons. It was Stannis, and he ran Free Folk. He ran Mance.
Man, it's so good.
Oh my gosh. I'm not going to spoil the outcome of the battle report, but I will go ahead and eat the words that I said when we first did the podcast on the Free Folk and say that they are awesome. The things that Carl was doing with the deck and the attachment switching and stuff like that with the Weeper and there was a couple other things that he did that I can't really remember, but I remember thinking I was like it was like Tyrion level type strategies he was doing, and I was like, this is crazy. So I was very impressed with what I saw with Free Folk. The second match that I played with him was not recorded, but I wanted to try out Starks. I played Great John Commander. He ran Free Folk again. I believe I won. Yeah, I won that match. But I think with the Starks, my general impression is they are totally different now. They seem more control rather than alpha striking and stuff like that, which is a pleasant change. I still need to tinker with it a little bit more, but I did like the new deck and some of Great John's cards, so I had a lot of fun doing that. The other 2 matches that I got in were on Tabletop Simulator, and Lord Commander Bob is in chat right now, and he may want to hop in and back up what I'm saying here. But I told him to run, his gas total gas Night's Watch list, and I regret requesting that. I'm not going to get too far into it because I don't want to get triggered again. But those of you who have either played Night's Watch or played against them should know that there's some things within that faction that I don't know. I guess we could say a little bit overpowered. But Bob, how do you think those matches went?
I don't want to get like too negative or anything about it or anything. I basically I've played like 8 games now. I lost the first game that I played against Dakota, and that was an in-person game, and it was just like I had no idea what was going on because I didn't study the deck or anything like that before we played it. And every other game, my opponent has been frustrated, to say the least. I've found some pretty nasty combinations that I don't want to go into too much, but they were pretty darn good that it was hard for my opponent to really do anything against it yet. I'm hoping I mean, I played Night's Watch last patch all the time. I'm hoping that someone can figure out how to beat it, because I don't necessarily enjoy playing that god tier faction. Chris flipped the table on me. I've never seen him so mad. It was. I was trying not to laugh, because I knew how frustrated he was. But it was basically I just spent my afternoon doing this and flipped the table and said he had to leave. And I talked to him again like 2 hours later, and he seemed to calm down a little bit. Now that was the.
I'm gonna say that I know this from experience. I'm generally a calm guy, and I always try my best to stay positive and remember it's just a game. But I knew that Bob knew I was upset, because things would happen in the game where I would generally laugh about it. Like if it's a bad dice roll or I failed a panic test, I'd be like, "Oh, that kind of sucks," but I laugh it off. But I was just completely silent for like 90% of the game. So like whenever you hear that dead silence after stuff like that happens, it's like that I'm having a bad time. And I apologize to Bob for being very abrasive like that and flipping the table, but I feel justified.
I appreciate Bob's like hashtag not a bandwagoner speech. Like, just for the record, guys, for those who remember me doing well with Starks, I played Night's Watch first. This is not what this is.
That was the only time I played Starks. So, yeah.
I know. I
actually watched the game where Chris flipped the table. He was completely justified in doing it.
Well, and here's the craziest part of it was that game wasn't the gas list. That game was, I didn't run any ranged units. I ran Jon Snow in Sworn Brothers, and I ran I ran a Watch Recruiter Veteran, a Watch Recruiter Conscript, another Conscript, and Ghost. And then I had Gior, Aemon, and Oathel NCUs with it. I felt Chris completely outpositioned me. I felt like if it was last version, I had already lost the game because Chris had outplayed me in the first 2 rounds. And he had the Alpha Strike set up for everything. And he had Roller Faithful units, which they can hit hard. And Lightbringers and or a Lightbringer. But it was that constant healing from conscripts, constant healing from Jon Snow's card. Swapping my Jon Snow charge card to a different unit that wasn't engaged, and then using it to charge. Just those interactions with Gior and all of the heals, Aemon heals. It was non-stop healing, and I almost feel like me as a Night's Watch player, and he was attacking my Sworn Brothers. I was glad that he wasn't attacking my conscripts, because if you attack my conscripts, they die quicker.
Well, the plan was to do damage with the Lightbringers, but I don't even think that their panic test effect went off once. Actually, it did happen once, and your conscripts took 1 wound.
Exactly.
And then they didn't do anything for the rest of the game.
Yeah, so I think Lightbringers are actually quite good. Long range Vicious is something we haven't really seen much before, with a splash of a Vicious Panic. But I do think it's worth noting that like some of the big 3 fear right now is Lannisters, Night's Watch, and Targaryens. And even some of the lower tier factions have morale 5 bubbles as far as like Mance and like Asha, which is going to seriously diminish the Lightbringers output overall. So when your Baratheon players are testing your lists, don't be down on your Lightbringers. Like, they're gonna look cool. They're like heavy armor, infantry archers, and I think they're great. I think the faithful lists are really cool, especially with the actual faithful dying, triggering free attacks for other Rolar units. But just keep in mind that like this is a 2-list format game. So as hard as we might be down on like a faction overperforming or something, your second list could skew very aggressively to counterbalancing that. So like, if you're new to the game, or you've been in the game for a minute and you're just new to 2021, which we all kind of are, and you're getting punked by something like Lightbringers, skew to the 5 morale builds, right? Like Balon can do a 5 and 4 morale build without Asha in Greyjoys. Asha can do it on her own. She's a bubble. Mance is a bubble. Lannisters don't really care what you do about panic because they do panic harder than you. Baratheons can actually get some pretty solid morale right now. Nightwatch average 5, Targaryens average 5 or better. So like, just look at your options. Lightbringers will be very good in some matchups, but list chicken's really important this edition. So if you feel like your Lightbringers are over or underperforming, just look at your list pairings. Because I think they look really cool. I think they'd be really cool when we get them in our hands. I think they play well enough. They're their place in the world. So like, 2021 is a big shakeup, man. There's a lot going on. As a free folk player, believe me when I tell you, there's a lot going on. But there's some splashy stuff you can still play to give yourself a fighting chance.
So I want to hear what Dave has been putting on the table, because I know that you're picking back up again and you're starting to see your usual gaming group. So what are you seeing on the table right now, or what are you trying to test out?
I mean, I've been kind of nonstop Greyjoys since they came out, but I've been pretty fortunate that me and our new co-host Spencer, we've played ever since the leak stuff, and even when like the revealed stuff was being revealed. I mean, we've been playing nonstop. Usually 3 to 6 games a week, just me and Spencer, and then however many games me and my wife play. Me and my nephew play, who's 23, so he's older. And then our gaming group has started back up on Wednesday. So I want to say I usually get at least 5 to 10 games a week.
Holy smokes.
And this is all in person too. I
Yeah.
have not been able to find the time to learn TTS yet, so I don't even know how to play TTS yet. But yeah, on the table, me and Spencer, we've been trying anything and everything under the rainbow, and I have to agree with the what you guys were talking about. The Night's Watch is we just kind of avoid playing Night's Watch now because we've already kind of discovered all that we need to discover, and neither of us have fun when the other one is playing Night's Watch, so we just avoid it altogether. So we've been kind of just running. He's been mostly been running Baratheons, and I've been running, I would say, more than any other faction, probably Free Folk. Free Folk I absolutely love a lot. I think I'm going to be switching from maining Starks and Baratheons from 1.6 to my main factions are probably going to be Greyjoys and Free Folk now.
Yeah, I think Starks are in a weird place right now. Like they have some serious potential because like hardened on a stick for an attachment is a heck of an ability. But I don't really know, like their list math is difficult at 40 points.
Yeah, for me, they just really don't they don't fit my playstyle, I feel like, anymore, with the exception of like one build, and that's like Berserker spam with minuses to hit spam everywhere, and I feel like I don't have a lot of list diversity when I'm trying to theory craft, because I feel like Berserkers just do what they do so well that compared to anything else the Starks can bring, it just really isn't worth it. For me, I'm not too fond of the Crannogmen, not too fond of Sworn Swords just because of how their order conflicts with pretty much all the other buffs you can kind of give them. Not a fan of Outriders or Great Axes. Bowmen are okay. I mean, I would say they're about average. So yeah, not a lot kind of sticks out. Sworn Shields look awesome. Especially with deployment being a bit different now with with 2021, and them kind of getting a little boost.
Yeah, shout out to all our Stark followers. I think Telly Sworn Shields and pretty much any attachment, honestly, is valuable in them. But if you're looking for attachment points, a Mormont Vet makes Telly Sworn Shields darn near unkillable in an honest to hits fashion. And then something people are theory crafting about if you're just like unsure what to play with. Getting action economy is always good in this game. So the Chronogman Warden and the longbows, and not caring about line of sight, so you can screen them off with terrain or sworn shields. Getting that like Overwatch shot is big. So like, while we may not cover a lot of Stark lists in the very near future because of the power meta shakeup, Start there for some fun lists, and honestly, point for point, Berserkers are as good as they ever were. So when in doubt, apply Berserkers. And then if we don't cover Starks very much, well, there you go. That's still a decent template. What about you, Bob? You had something else to say, didn't you?
Yeah, I was gonna kind of piggyback off what Dave was saying about having fun in person, and that's even on TTS. I've kind of already taken the approach of I know it's good for Night's Watch. So if I play someone, unless they specifically request it, like Chris, and anyone who wants to try to build a list to try to beat the gas list for Night's Watch, which in reality I've found the most gas list that I've played so far is probably the Ranger Hunters. I have yet to play I did play Dakota once, and that was like a high armor army that he played, but he wasn't able to catch me. So that was kind of crazy too. But I would lean more towards trying out the Donald Noy commander, or Geor, or Alistair. I did play an Alistair panic-based list once. That was pretty fun too, but it was still it involved Othel NCU inflicting attacks to do panic as well. And then also, I heard Dave mention about conflicting abilities. I felt the same way about Sworn Brothers. Every time I'm engaged with Sworn Brothers, I want to use their order, and I end up having a card in my hand that is the same trigger. Or even like the conscript order, which is awesome, and I would almost always pick it, but it conflicts with a lot of the cards that are start of a friendly turn, or start of any turn. I mean, yeah, I'm not whining, because yes, I know that Night's Watch are really good, but I'm leaning more towards playing the things that I haven't tried yet, that I don't know if are super powerful. Like, I have not run a Stone Thrower yet. It's not my style. And I have not run the Scorpions yet. And I don't think I'll ever put Ranger Trackers on the board at 7 points the way they are right now. But we'll see. You never know. Maybe I'll do it and test it out and see. But yeah, I guess that's my impression of Night's Watch to start the 2021 version, though. I've had a blast trying to figure out what works and put lists together again. The D3 Panic is awesome. So yeah, I mean, it's just, I feel like things are going to be more of a tanky, objective-based meta with healing, and Night's Watch have so much healing, you know? So, Dakota, what did you think playing some of the Baratheons so far? Because I know I played you a couple games. I know you didn't have too much fun either against the Night's Watch list. But
yeah, I mean, okay, so I did play the one game against the Night's Watch list, and honestly, you know, like, yeah, it wasn't enjoyable, but the final score of it was like 10-8, and it's just like, man, like, it was a closer game than it felt like. Like, you just play and you're like, yeah, it's like, I don't have answers for this, but then all of a sudden it's like, man, I was really actually pretty close, you know? So that's one thing I'm thinking about going forward here is like, all right, how can I just win and ignore what they're doing, if that makes sense. So I've been thinking about trying that for like playing against Night's Watch. With my Baratheons, because that's basically all I've been looking at this point is building with them. They have some cool lists. They have all their commanders obviously are, I wouldn't say all of them are changed, but they add a lot more diversity and almost different play styles between the sides, which we know of, but you don't feel punished. I think before you almost felt punished sometimes playing them a little bit too much, and they feel really good right now. They a lot better than they were.
Yeah, like I spent a lot of time in the 3 Sales Gaming Discords, right? Shout out to George and those boys. There's a lot of Baratheon loyalists there. They're spitballing lists all the time, and I'm often pretty loud capping on them pretty much, right, as a tournament chaser. Some of them are a bit more loyalist than I care for about getting W's, right? So what are some of your like spiciest commander like list combos you think so far you've come across?
Spiciest list combos. Eldon, he while Renly's side is, I think, struggling right now with their units because they don't really have, outside of the Rose Knights, any other. I mean, they didn't get any new releases. Stannis side just got 3 new releases basically, and Renly hasn't got any. So
Yo,
the
Eldon's a beast, though. I was literally giving Eldon a shout out today in the Discord
yeah,
with like,
El-
I think Sentinels are one of the best new things, and like Wardens too, in Baratheons. And I think Eldon's a hoss, like legit.
yeah. I mean, I've not that I think it'll work. I'm gonna disclaimer that like I don't think it'll work, but I'm going to try it as a 6 activation Eldon list because I'm looking at it and it's like I could potentially not die. It'll be rough. Like I'm not gonna say it'll be an easy game, but it'll be rough. But it's just like, man, his attachment's great. If you can keep him alive on an objective, maybe in like some Stag Knights or Rose Knights or something like that, like he's gonna be really good. Um,
Yeah, I actually faced Spencer with Eldon and Stag Knights, and I had Bastard Scrolls in the back, Cutthroats in the flank, and um, what was it? Blackguard in the front. And because I was at second to last rank on all 3 units with Harden and Resilience, I couldn't kill him, no matter how many attacks I had.
yeah, they just look strong. I even like, I love his cards. I'm not a huge fan of martial superiority just because it's a little bit of token setup, but if you can get that game to drag out and get a battle endurance on a unit, they're gonna be really good because their first thing is re-rolling attack dice. So all of a sudden, I don't even need to hit a good charge. I can be engaged like I want to be, and then just swing for the fences almost. And then his hefty ransom card. If you take like a Loris with him and you just go and snipe an attachment early, you can just buff up a unit again. You're adding attack dice, you're adding morale in, and it seems like you could build something pretty beefy with him.
Yeah, like his units cards are consistent
Mhm.
while linear. They are ways to break parity. And honestly, as I mentioned in the Starks, Harden's a hell of an ability this edition because things don't. There's not as many auto wounds out there, and things don't spike quite as hard on hits
Mhm.
overall in the game. So hardened on already a fairly hardy unit, which everything in Baratheon qualifies as hardy at a base level. Harden's a heck of an ability to have on a free attachment. Like immediately anything that has hardened in it in a Baratheon list is immediately an anchor piece, right? Like you can just create a hold point or a bottleneck there. I like him a lot, actually. Like I said, I mean, battle endurance makes things baby stags. So you turn unit of wardens and stag knights for an attachment card. Like that is something worth writing home about, honestly. Martial superiority is both counter strike and disrupt on a card for the cost of a vulnerable, which like Stannis, as I brag on Stannis one all the time, he's an engine of himself. He creates his own vulnerable with mark target. So it's fairly reliable compared to other like token based strats. And as you mentioned, the bottom half of Hefty Ransom is super easy to set up, and the top half kind of helps you mitigate tempo if you lose your commander early for some reason. Like all the way around, it's a very consistent kit. I'm a big fan of Eldon overall.
And Dakota, you practice a lot with Carl, and I know he's a Targaryen player. Charles, you brought up what you think are maybe the top 3 factions, or what could be. You said Night's Watch, Lannisters, and Targaryens, but
Yeah, definitely the big 3.
like I said, Dakota, you've practiced with Carl. What are your thoughts on Targaryens right now?
I think they're really good. They have a lot more options than they did. I think the vets might be their best unit. If you're looking at 8 points and you're not taking like Mother of Dragons, I think you take a unit of vets. They're really good. I know he had it set up where I left a small gap and he double shot, like he shot and charged Stag Knights and killed them. They weren't at full health. I'll say that. Killed them and then overran into like some Lightbringers, and it was just like, huh, like that was pretty impressive. Like they can really dominate, and they don't really need. I felt like in the last version they needed a lot of things to go right, and now they don't. Like they can just like do things that they want to do and not have to be like, oh, I need to have this card, and this card, and I'm gonna train a big thing together, and that'll be it.
All right, now Charles, we haven't really heard about what you've been testing out. You're the resident free folk player. What are your thoughts on 1.7?
There's hope. There's hope, boys and girls. There's hope. Is there a lot of hope in face of overcoming the wall and getting past Night's Watch? Not really. I'm gonna be honest with you, not really. Targs, there is hope though. You can actually trade with Targs in a meaningful way, and Lannisters are pretty rough. We got no coin for nowhere, and Lannisters got all the money, so they got all the toys. Obviously, morale is a problem, but Mance might be single-handedly the best commander in the game, pound for pound. So when in doubt, everybody's favorite main character for free folk, basically outside Tormund. Mance is the man with the plan. Obviously, 5 morale bubble is big. His cards actually got an upgrade. They're cleaner, they're easier to play, and they're actually more impactful, more immediately impactful. Big surprise for everybody who's maybe tired of Harma as the most played attachment in Free Folk. Checks out. She's still the most played attachment in Free Folk. Sentinel is a heck of an ability. Sentinel gives you a counter charge or a free maneuver. It's our only real free maneuver. So Harma's and everything. And Spearwives, as we mentioned, bastard girls, baby bastard girls being Spearwives. Turns out it's still good because of action economy. Both cases is about action economy. Tormund's pretty solid and fun to play. Recently, I've been dojoing some Harma, actually. Harma may have some play. Rattleshirt still is Rattleshirt. Weeper is worse than he was, all in my opinion. Spearwives, though, have become the quintessential staple of the faction right now because they're the only way you do work, like meaningful work, getting rid of problem units, trading units, copying them over with tactical, coordinated tactics is real important there. I haven't actually seen the bouncing of attachments be as useful as just straight up coordination tactics. And There's Too Many is a huge impactful card. The adjustments, thank God they listen to us as players. The removing of the rank requirement makes the deck flow beautifully. It's a very important deck now. It's very playable. Doesn't do a ton with solos anymore, or still, but it does more than it did, which is very important. So I've had a lot of fun playing Free Folk, honestly.
What do you think of the new skin changers?
Trash.
Really?
Zero hesitation, trash.
Why is that? I felt like it was cool that they were able to switch, the animal every round.
So the eagle is worse in that it really only affects the unit that the skin. So everything is worse, arguably, because it only affects things that affect the unit that the skin changer's in. There are 2 points, which you can reduce to 1 with Raiders, but you don't necessarily want Stalworth and Raiders, particularly because it still doesn't help a ton. And all 3 modes got worse. So the eagle is worse. At most, you're getting a 2-inch. At most, you're getting 2 2-inch shifts, which is cool, but not great. So on average, you're getting 1. Your opponent can play around it. The wolf is not fantastic, and the bear only deploys if you're already engaged, and there has to be room to deploy the bear. The bear is strictly worse. So it's like they no longer ignore the attachment requirement as far as having 2 attachments in 1 unit. They cost an extra point, and they don't do anything you need them to do anymore. They just don't fill a role. And because they made us kind of a Build-A-Bear faction, is what some of us have called them, you don't have the points to blow on the rollover point on skin changers, unfortunately. You just don't. When Harma is 2 points, and she gives you +1 speed and the ability to pivot when you march, and Sentinel, which is a counter charge or a free maneuver when a unit's attacked from any attack, you don't take skin changer over Harma. You just don't. And you don't have any other points you spend for a 2-point attachment. You just can't afford it.
I would actually counterpoint that. Sorry, Chris.
go
Because
for it.
I know I played against Carl one match because I played him on TTS I think the day or 2 before he went and played you, Chris, and he was like, I need to play these guys once. And it was actually, I enjoyed playing against them. Like they were good. And he beat me. I played some Lannisters. He beat the brakes off me. But I don't know. I think the skin changer having stalwart basically for 1 point for another ability that you can start moving around. I mean, he had Raiders. His Raiders were like on a 3 morale, and it was just like, what the hell? Like, why are your Raiders? Your Raiders have better morale than my Kingsmen right now, or whatever was out there. And I think it's good. Like, yeah, it doesn't have the action economy, but just the fact that you have that ability out there to start buffing up everything, and like when I played against him, I couldn't do anything panic wise because all of his panic I think at one point was like on a 3 because he like how
Yeah.
he had ability spread out,
So
and it was nuts. I mean, I thought it was crazy. It was cool, but
yeah, so if you run him in Mance, you can get him to a 3, but you can also get Egret and run him at a 3. And to run more than that, you're starting to give up other activation advantage elsewhere and things like that. Like, so caveat, right? I can't turn off my tournament brain. I like
right.
to play
No, I
competitive
get
games.
that.
Showing up for a one-off game, if you're at your club and you've got painted skin changers, and Stalwart is good because you know the guy you play at your club is a Lannister player or is playing Lightbringers and a panic-based Baratheon list. By all means, please do not let me talk you off playing Stalwart skin changers or Egret attachment. Though, but spoilers, Egret NCU is actually one of the best NCUs we have. But from a tournament perspective and stringing 5 wins together to win, I don't think you can afford the points on skin changers. But that is 100% purely speculation because I've not played a tournament yet, nor has really anybody in 2021. And I'm just a dude from South Louisiana. So at the end of the day, if your skin changers are painted and you think they're dope and you know you play in your club or your household or your roommate or your son or your wife is playing Lannisters and they're spanking you with Lannister supremacy and red cloaks and you need 3+ morale, by all means, bust out the skin changers. Right?
So I actually have something to add for them that Brett pointed out to me because I still don't think that this makes them like an amazing option, but it's something like kind of food for thought. Is the bear will remain for the remainder of the round, and all the tactics cards only ask for a unit, so you can summon the bear to count as an additional unit for overwhelming assault, for diversion. For there's too many, and so on.
Yeah, the problem comes into the bear has to have a place to land. So when you're playing against players who play regularly and the like pivot block charge lines meta, there's not a lot of place to put the bear. A lot of times the bear can't land because if you're lucky, you can 50-50 the front, but you can't get it into the flank more often than not. So you actually can't deploy it in some cases, and you can't do it when you charge, which means you have to already be stuck in. If you're already stuck in, you're already losing as free folk in most of the cases because we don't have staying power like in any of our units, even thins. And that's kind of the problem. The attrition rate is offset by any value you get from the bear. It's a thing, and if you play it well and you're winning with it in your club, play it. But don't be surprised when you start looking at tournament results if you don't see it more often. It's going to be kind of a local meta pick, I think. I'm willing to accept and admit that it's very likely that it excels in certain metas. I don't necessarily think if you're playing all the UK players and the EU players, it's going to do you a lot of good because they tend to crib up a little bit and block all those flanks and force you to 100% or 50-50 in a way that supports them. Because the other thing, right, if you 50-50 because they corner blocked a quarter of their front tray, you still can't deploy the solo base. It won't fit. So you just won't literally be able to deploy it, which is the problem most of us have run into when testing it in prep for TSL. But that is a very specific group of players that play a certain way. I'm not saying that's indicative of every meta, and I'm not saying the TSL and the online meta is the meta either. We all know each other and know each other's habits, and I do think that dictates a lot of how we play. It's not the same everywhere. So if you're having a lot of success with them, they do trigger some of our cards. Not our cards aren't rank based, which still adds to the fact that there's hope for free folk. There's upside. They're not the bottom tier right now on stats for early testing, right? Like they have some really cool nukes, like Tormund lists can turn Cave Dweller Savages with Harma in it with Egret NCU into a 14-inch auto charge Stark style bomb. Like didn't see that coming until we started testing. Like legit, reach out and touch somebody. Auto in at 14 inches. Rush of Aggression gives you critical blow. Cave Dweller Savages start with Sundering. If you coordinate tactics, Spear Wives, you're gonna do 3 extra hits on top of it. Legit one-shots units. Just legit one-shots units. So like, and if those Spirit Wives happen to have like an alpha in them or something, you roll highest attack die, so you get 2 extra die, and like vicious and all kinds of cool stuff. Like, there's legit wombo combos in Free Folk that are going to surprise the heck out of people since they changed the tactics deck. So like, Free Folk are a lot of fun. Free Folk are a lot of fun right now. Top tier? No, probably not. But fun? I think so. I think it's safe to say Free Folk are more fun to play than they were.
All right, so I think I have a fun little exercise for all of us to participate in. So let's do like a quick fire round, and I'm gonna ask you guys a question, and then without thinking, your gut reaction, just tell me what your answer is, and then maybe explain quickly why you think that's the case. So the first question I'll ask, and I'll start with Dakota, is this still a 3 NCU meta?
Unsure. Yes, I'm still unsure.
I think you're unsure because you want it to be a 2 NCU meta.
I want it to be. I'm unsure because I've been playing, and I've been running a lot of 2 NCU. I've played it against 2 versus 2. I played it against 3 versus 3, and yeah, like going to the board is nice, but sometimes it's like, well, what am I? I feel like you're losing of what some you're adding. Like you can bring an NCU that might not really do much. Yeah, you can get that board zone, but I don't know. I'm unsure. I feel like we haven't played enough to be like, yes, it's 3. Because when I do some list and it's like, all right, I come and bring 4 field units and 3 NCUs. I don't think I have that good of an army. When I bring 5 field units and 2 NCUs, I'm like, I think it's better, but I do feel like I'm missing some. So I'm unsure. I'm unsure what'll be the big gun there.
Dave, what do you think?
I think the version 2021 has changed the meta in such a way for NCUs that 2 NCUs is just as strong as 3 NCUs. Now the 3 NCU meta actually has to sacrifice on the field, whereas before you could work around it and still have just as much field presence. But now if you want 3, you're really going to have to suffer on the field. But I think at the end of the day, it will be a perfect balance between the two.
What do you think, Charles?
Nope. I think it's 3 NCUs still, and I'll explain why briefly. So where you got taxed by NCUs and you quote unquote gave up on to give NCUs on field presence, almost every faction gained a 4-point unit or a 3-point unit they didn't have before, meaning that on unit per cost average gives you the points for the 4th and the 3rd NCU. The other thing is that 2 NCU can never punish 3 NCU. 3 NCU can punish 2 NCU. Because the inherent fundamental value of 3 NCU always was never the NCU's power. It was the fact that you had an activation that you can defer, basically, even if you just passed it, for overcommitting on the board, no matter how many units you had on the board, that was effectively undeniable by your opponent. They could not kill it. They could not remove its overall value. The pass alone at 3 or even 4 points was worth its points because it allowed you to leverage whatever board state you felt was to your advantage at the time without overcommitting combat knowledge. So if your opponent, even if it's another unit, they're like, oh, I have a unit that I'm pressuring you with. That is now another unit that is likely overextended that I'm going to remove and score a VP and then retreat from. And now I'm up on game mode and VPs, and now you're on my clock again. So 3s can punish 2s, 2s can't punish 3s, 3s matches 3s. So it maintains parity. Because of that value. The fundamental mechanics of this game is that is a guaranteed effect of some kind, be it a zone denial, zone benefit, or an NCU benefit that your opponent very, very, very seldom can take away. There are a few cards that do it, and maybe Oleana if in a way. But even then, she neglects the NCU, not the zone, and so forth. 2 cannot punish 3. 3 can punish 2. Because there are some factions you just cannot give that 3rd activation to. If the Lanyap, roundabout bonus kicker 4th pass activation, 3rd pass activation on the tactics board and say Night's Watch is Amon is now going to heal half a unit. And you now can't get through the tempo of the gained heals. If it's not Amon and it's Jor's attaching a vow that you didn't want him to have. Or if he's got For the Watch from John and he's getting a charge in on his own terms. All these different things. Greyjoys have 4 NCU attacks in their deck. Gregor has 4 NCU attacks in their deck. There are whole lists that you cannot deny afford to not deny them that third slot. So I think at best, for the 2 NCU diehards out there, you're going to have 1 3 NCU list and 1 2 NCU list, which might bring the meta to a 2.5 meta. But for the most part, you're going to be forced to play your 3 NCU list to deny the action economy of the factions that really do something special with that third free on the board action.
All right, so next question, and again, we'll start off with Dakota here, is what unit attachment or NCU that you think people might be sleeping on right now?
Sleeper pick. Sorry, you caught me off guard a little bit. Sleeper pick, I would say, Baratheon wise. I mean, I don't even know if it's a sleeper. I think you look at him and he's really good. But no, I'll say it. Marjorie. I'll say Marjorie's going to be a sleeper pick.
Marjorie.
Yep.
So she hasn't. Oh, she's got the secondary new ability where someone becomes vulnerable, right? If they're engaged.
So if you're coming up engaged, I mean, it's kind of niche. I think will it always work? No, absolutely not. I'm not saying she's going to be 100%er, but when she does hit a heal and then puts a vulnerable on and then swings off the combat zone, and you're not really expecting it, it'll do some work. Do I think she's great? But I think she'll be better than anticipated.
All right, Dave, what do you think?
Without thinking too hard about it, I'd say Littlefinger. I think Littlefinger is going to be so useful in 2021 that I would argue to say he should be 5 points. Ranged is going to be super important in 2021. And the ability to just, if your opponent has no ranged, the ability to just constantly take a spot to cover up, to deny your opponent, to shoot, just so that they then have to take an NCU to cover the attack, so that you don't shoot 3 times with the same ranged unit. I would personally pay 5 points for Peter. Not easily pay 5 points, but I would still be running Peter at 5 points.
Charles.
Yeah, you kind of stole the Peter Baelish one on me. Just because the way the game is played, right? Like, I'm player 1, I take the zone I want with Peter, do a different zone, and I need this zone for my cards. Let's say, I don't know, Lannisters or Baratheons. Baratheons have 2 zones they care about. And then the next round, turn 2, you deny it to me. I pop Peter's once per game, locks it out. I got it anyway. And then 3rd round or 4th round, I get it again because I'm player 1. That is how the game is won, right? You basically double tapped your key zone or triple tapped it, and they couldn't deny it to you. That's all the flexibility you need. That once per game is huge because of the 1-2-1 turn situation. I'm gonna name 2 equally here because disparity in fanboys. Brad, I have a ton of fanboys. For your 3 NCU question, Courtney Penrose is ridiculous. After looking at him today, Courtney is a huge shout out for a 3rd NCU in Baratheons. Because here's the kicker, boys and girls. He does not need to be on a tactic zone to matter. If you're player 2 and you can't get all 3 on the zone, doesn't matter. Courtney still has orders. And his order tokens basically say top of 1, turn 1. I'm going to use an order token and tell you if you take the swords or the letters, I'm healing 3. I'm healing at least an average of 4, D3 plus 2, which completely negates the letters for the record. The swords, I mean, on average, you do 4 wounds on average. With an attack in this meta, maybe a little more with panic. But he basically says, you're going to take swords and it's going to do nothing on anything that matters. That is huge, whether he's on the board or not. And then you play the other 2 NCUs and no one cares. So Courtney P is huge, I think, for Baratheons on that side. Especially considering Stannis pulled ahead.
Yeah, I was to say I didn't say Courtney because I don't think he's a sleeper. I looked at him and I'm like, yeah, he's good. Like
people are all over Stannis right now, though. So like no one's looking at Courtney as like the Renly NCU. So no one's talking about Renly NCU, but like boys and girls, Renly has some tools for sure, and Courtney P is one of them.
Renly has the better NCUs out of the Baratheons.
I think so, to a degree, for sure.
He definitely does.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I didn't. Honestly, I would have picked either one of yours, but I was going with sleeper of like, oh, you might not expect it. I fully expect to see a ton of Baelish and
because of the like left brain, right brain, like fanboy situation in Baratheons. You only hear about Stannis right now because they got a huge upgrade. Yeah. But when in doubt, Courtney P is still a G. In case you're wondering, right?
Yeah.
All right, but my heart is true to home. Free folk. I am still very sad to lose the high skill cap piece that was original Mance NCU. Okay, I thought he could have been left alone because he was hard to play well, but he was very, very powerful. However, I will admit that Mance NCU, if you're not playing Mance Commander, Mance NCU is a beast because he's old Courtney P, but for card draw, which for anybody who saw how many times Baratheon players could trigger Courtney P for healing, you draw many cards in Mance. So, and right now, Free Folk live and die by their tactics deck now has been changed. So, you play Mance with Craster, or you play Mance with Lady Val, and you're drawing, especially with Craster, you're drawing your whole deck by turn 4. Legit drawing your whole deck by turn 4. That's massive in this game because the game is the 3 parts, right? It's tactics board, it's tactics cards, and it's combat board. So if you can draw through the entire list of mechanics you have in one of those 3 zones, you have something you can leverage to win. It breaks parity. Other factions can't draw that many cards. So as I've mentioned before with breaking parity and other things, it's huge with Free Folk. And Mance enables that dramatically in both of his forms. So as far as my front of the line for my painting table, my man Mance has actually not been painted yet. So Mance is on top of my painting table.
My sleeper hit, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I think that Tycho should be seeing more play, especially with the new game modes. His ability to be taken in any faction. I feel like that one-time heal is going to be a game changer, especially if you need that unit healed up to a rank that, or where you can outrank an opponent that's engaged with you to gain that point at the end of the round. Also, factions that aren't really known for heals. I think Tycho may not seem as sexy because he didn't change it all, but I think that he should be seeing a lot of play, if not right now.
Yep, 100%.
So this next one here, I'm going to try something. Each of us needs to think about what unit or something in the game that got shafted the most, and we should all type it in chat. And I want to see if any of us have the same answer. Okay, so on 3, type in who you think got shafted the most, and then we'll see the results here. So 1, 2, 3. All right, I'm glad.
Dave, that counts as abstaining. Dave, that's not fair.
I'm glad Stovetop, Stefan in chat also participated here because he got the same one that me and Charles chose here. Dave, your answer was pretty spot on as well. I think that would have been my second choice. So the results are Charles, Stovetop in chat, and me all chose Mammoth. Dakota chose Mel, and then Dave chose Lady. Well, I don't know what Lady meant.
Sansa's
Lady-
dog.
The wolf.
Yeah, the lack of 4th dog.
Yeah, that's not counting Nymeria too, but yeah, Lady did get shafted. All right, so Charles, obviously you and I are on the same page here. Mammoths.
And I'm going to go on record. They were a problem, and they needed to be corrected. I think they legit just needed a redesign, though. I don't think what they got was correct either. But I will wholeheartedly admit as a Free Folk player, they were a problem in the game because mechanically, particularly in IRL gaming, they do not work in a way that is conducive to enjoying playing the game.
I'd agree with that because I was helping out 2 newer players at our local game shop, and there was a player, she was playing Free Folk and she was playing Mammoth for the first time, and I was there as one of the veteran players to sort of guide her on how it worked. And even as I was explaining it, I was like, this just doesn't feel right, and maybe that's because I came from testing them out in TTS. So, there's a level of ease when you're able to do that digitally with their movement and marching and their trample shenanigans. But on the tabletop, it was not conducive of something that should be played on the table.
Yeah, and again, as always, shout out to Bartender because the store location feature came out right when Mammoths came out.
Yeah,
and it's probably the only reason we made it through those last few tournaments because there's only so much you could do with a proxy base in real life or digitally. So the fact that we could legit to the pixel rewind game state Does not exist anywhere else. And it is the only reason we made it through the World Cup and stuff with Mammoth.
So maybe this was like a low-key way for Fabio and Chanel just to like wipe the history books that mammoths ever existed. It's just to nerf them to hell. Like no, maybe they were thinking, okay, mammoths was not a good idea. Let's just like make them unplayable.
Yeah, I don't know. I think another a secondary that I didn't post was I think Great Access still kind of got shafted because point for point they get outshined by their own. Now worse than it was also 5-point unit still. And like it should have been the time for Starks to really get a legit 7-point unit because they don't have one now. And Great Axes are my runner up for getting the axe shaft.
Most definitely, especially since why would you ever take them over Berserkers for 1 point less?
Yeah,
So-
still they got a chance to correct that, and it's still a problem.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Mel. All right, Dave and Dakota, let's hear your thoughts. You both agreed on that.
I'll go on this first. Well, she went up a point and does less damage. Like I know she was a problem in the last one, and almost like just like that NPE where you're like, I'm gonna do this, and you're gonna take a panic test, and you're gonna take a tray and a half or half a tray's plus worth of wounds. For me, really doing nothing. But now she does less damage. She's 6 points. I mean, there's
Yeah, that's not like a base unit. It's a damn good unit at 6 points, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
Berserkers are 6 points. Red Cloaks are 6 points. Like, let's be real here.
If I'm taking an NCU, I don't want an NCU to be like a mid-tier unit for me. I want them to be at that 4-point range. If they're 5 points, like they're going to be doing something cool. But like, she doesn't. It's so hard. Like I first saw her and I was like, okay, like yeah, they nerfed her, but I'm like, wait, like 6 points? I mean, yeah, and like you have to take 2 wounds and a panic touch yourself, so you could take like 5 wounds on yourself to deal, D3 plus 2 to somebody. Like, I don't know. And then she had like her secondary thing, like, yeah, they put a little secondary thing, like when influencing, it's a R'hllor unit, which you don't really need to like influence a lot of R'hllor units. And melee attacks gain vicious. If you're running R'hllor, everything has vicious, and there's easier places to get vicious. I mean, your faithful, they have vicious on a token. Lightbringers, they have vicious. Yeah, it's she got shafted. I mean, like I was hoping that they would give her something cool, like a cool influence that maybe made your R'hllor still for like putting them on champs or something, and like did something else cool maybe. But like she just doesn't do anything cool that I want my own units doing. Like it just no, not at all.
I think she is unfortunately fair at 6 points, but no one will ever really take her at 6 points, if that makes sense. Just because of the potential of the damage she can do. I think NCUs that can kind of like Othel for Night's Watch that can just kind of damage units in such a way from NCUs is just, it's hard to balance something like that. I think Mel would have been so much better as just a super buff. I had kind of been mentioning that for a long time, that should just be an influence that gives kind of like she is, where she gives vicious, gives R'hllor, but maybe just something extra. Even she could even go the route of because I understand that they probably wanted to make her 6 points because they probably want every faction to have a 6-point NCU, and she's kind of that perfect character to be the 6-point. But I think maybe go along the lines of kind of with units that have adaptive that give you a 1-point reduction on something. She could just be a 5-point NCU in ability, but be worth 6 points that gives like a 1-point reduction on a R'hllor unit that you purchase in your army. And that way you're sort of spending the points on her while not the same way you would if you were to take Stormcrow Mercenaries or Free Folk Raiders. I think something like that would be a lot easier to balance than trying to just supercharge, one shots, or not not one shots, but like just bombing someone from out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think definitely something like that discount would be a cool ability, or maybe like give the faction a free priestess, or make one unit permanently relore or something like that for the game. At 6 points, that's nuts. So if you're running 2 NCUs, that's a quarter of your army, and then you're potentially running what, 3 combat units with some attachments, or 4, but then you're probably ending up taking wardens or something like that, which, in my opinion, they're not that great. I know that there are some people that'll argue with me about that, but 6 dice on 4s. I'm
Counter
not a fan
strike
of that.
dog on 3+ armor.
I had them
No,
going
just
toe-to-toe
dance
with-
around it.
I had them going toe to toe with Euron trappers, and they couldn't kill 1 wound. I'm not sold on wardens yet. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's like her opportunity cost. Like
Yeah.
she could be something so cool. Like her whole thing is like the visions and the flames. Like she could even do something cool, like let you just go draw a card that you want. Like, I mean, like there are so many things that she could do, but she doesn't. And like, yeah, she
Look,
probably is fair at 6 points.
With
But, like,
all the
I ain't
cool
taking her.
order token things they created, and old Jockin being gone who killed an NCU or an attachment, they should have given her order tokens that are shadow babies.
Yes.
And it's like 3 shots at expert duelist to just murk a baby. Use a
Mhm.
baby to murk an attachment. That
I'm
would have
cool
been
with that.
cooler than half the expert duelists in the game, and been thematic as heck. Like
Mhm.
I'd
Yeah.
have played her just, I don't know, for hilarity.
100% agree with that.
Like take
Yeah.
a zone, spin an order token, try to snipe something. Make it better than Egret, where Egret was like only Egret attachment was like once per turn, Jockin was like once a game or whatever as well. Both once a game. Make her order token base like 2. Give her 2 shots to snipe somebody. I think that'd have been way cooler than what she ended up being.
She could be something like 4 order tokens, and then it's on like a 5-up, but for every you can expend past the first, gives you a +1 on the roll.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
You
Yeah.
can just give her like still stack up 3 or 4 of them, and it's modal, right? Or maybe it's like you can snipe or heal 2 wounds or something, right? Or that'd have been also fine.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things you could have done with her that I think, like I was saying, trying to do this, panic bomb mechanic is just too hard to balance.
Yeah, I think so too. I think like when you look at a NC, one of my shout out to one of my new favorite attachments is Windermere and Greyjoys. I think that design is dope, and
Mhm.
she could have been anything close to that. It'd have been cooler than what she ended up being.
Or even like raising a previously dead attachment.
Yeah, like Brad have a ton of that, right? Like on the other side,
Yeah.
like Renly brings back attachments left and right, but
Yeah.
Stannis doesn't. If she's the only way Stannis does it, that's dope. That's still like
Yeah.
in faction identity and gives it some access to the other half, because still you've got like quarter factions and free Baratheon for whatever reason now. Like would have been cooler than what should have got. Like fanboys would have been over the top with it. It would have made sense. Like the faithful are resurrecting people, they're murder babying people. Like it'd have been dope. It just missed the boat, right? Just missed the boat.
Well, I think this was a really fun conversation, and I just want to begin closing it out because we're already breaching the hour mark here. But closing out the show, let's just hear from everyone on the show tonight on just their quick general impressions, their outlook on how 1.7 is going to look as we keep on playing, and maybe some more competitive matches or tournaments are going to start popping up, and we're able to go to our local game shops. So. Dakota, we'll start with you. How do you feel about the update in general?
I'm excited for it. I think there's a lot of great things. I think we're really just starting to scratch the surface. Like, yeah, we see all these like, oh, that's really good, or this is really good and unbeatable. But it's like, well, we haven't played enough to be like, well, what is the thing that beats it? Because then once you figure out the thing that beats it, it's like, all right, what else is that beating? It's gonna be kind of a vicious circle until we figure it out. I mean, there's so many more things that we just don't know, or interactions that we haven't witnessed or used, or whatnot. There's a lot of things out there. I'm excited.
Dave, what do you think?
I think 2021 is going to be amazing. It's not perfect, but I would say it's easily better than 1.6 in my opinion. No game will ever be perfect, but I think Simon's doing an awesome job, slowly moving, that goalpost for an amazing, game that they've already had. So it's one thing to have an awesome game, but to continuously see Simon just try to do what's best to better it is just amazing, and it gives me hope for any of the things that we've kind of talked about tonight that may just seem way too good or kind of concerning. I'm hopeful that most, if not all of it's gonna get kind of tweaked to where it needs to be.
All right, I'm not sunshine and rainbows, folks and boys and girls, but I will tell you this. While 2021 may not be actually more balanced in a competitive, like technical sense than 1.6 was, in that it was really mostly inverted. What was the bottom is now the top. What was the top is now the bottom. They're not actually closer to equilibrium. I will say that it is, in fact, better, in my opinion, than it was, in that most factions, air quotes here, most factions have more diverse list selection. I think Baratheons have more options, partially because of releases, but also they tweaked a lot of things to be more interesting in Baratheons. So things have interesting builds, which I think is better for all of us because that's where boredom creeps in, right? I think Baratheons are more interesting. I think Greyjoys are fairly interesting. I think Free Folk is actually more interesting, even though I don't think their internal balance is that great. They're more interesting. I think Night's Watch actually pretty much can't make a bad list. That's more interesting as a Night's Watch player because you can play whatever models you want. I think all of that makes for an overall, objectionably, uh, better game. I think the game is more interesting than it was, and I'll take that for now because they can work on balance with incremental releases and updates as we go. I will take a more interesting game over a more solved game because there's a chance they can tweak it as they go, and I think that is why 2021 is better than 1.6.
And as for me, I've got no comment because half of the 4 games that I played were against Bob and he played Night's Watch. So I'm going to hold off on any kind of opinion I have on 1.7 until I start playing some other people on the table. I got to say thank you to Dave and Dakota for spending the time joining us on the podcast. So thank you guys, and definitely check out each of their podcasts. Dakota.
Yeah. Check out mine and Carl's podcast called Roll 'em If You Got 'em. You can find us on everything, Spotify, Apple Play, all those. We're kind of in a hibernation right now, but we're going to be coming out of it soon, obviously, with our 2021 being released.
Awesome. And then Dave.
Yeah, of course. So you can check us out at Small Council Radio. We're on pretty much every platform you can think of, even some that I can never remember the name of. We're currently going through each faction. We're doing 2-parter of each faction. We've completed Free Folk just recently, so you can go check out both videos or both audio for that. And then I believe Starks will be up after that. Coming up next, not this coming Sunday, but the Sunday after. And yeah, definitely go check out those Free Folk shows.
Weasel, you want to go ahead and just give your weekly shout out?
Yeah. I've been bothering the crap out of Carlo and the Stats boys to keep updating the Stats website, and they've managed to get things to where I can creep on your list that you're winning, guys. So those of you who are getting results, I can now creep on your list, which makes me pass the time when I'm bored. And they've updated the challenge system, and they're working on the tournament system and all that good stuff. So Carlo's kicking butt. So that's also a big shout out to all you guys who are listening. He's done a ton to make it easier to submit games when you're playing your friends. Schedule games and challenge to you boys. You can submit lists. You can random your tournaments. You can random your game mode and then show up to the club and just throw your models down and play. Pack one list. It's real convenient in person. We've started using it at my club where we just kind of schedule everything on there and then submit after we play. So it's getting optimized, and if not already been optimized, for in-person events, not really TTS or even online, because like online tournaments is not even set up in there yet. It's really just open the app, load your list, challenge your friend, pick your game mode, and play. So shout out to Carlo. I think it's real dope, and I hope you all use it and support it and support some data because Carlo gets real butthurt when we don't use this stuff. So check it out, give him a shout.
And my shout out this week goes to Carl, who is Dakota's co-host for Roll 'em If You Got 'em. He is the person who makes all the wonderful dice trays that you see out there. I use one in my battle report. It's the custom Sunday Slaughter dice tray, and he provided me with the dice trays that I will be giving to my highest tier patrons. So if you are a highest tier patron, make sure that you answer my email requiring your address so I can get that to you. Carl did a wonderful job, and I'm really excited to send these out. I think you guys will enjoy them. So shout out to him. And as always, shout out to the rest of my supporters out there on Patreon. I could not do this without you guys. Definitely check out my YouTube channel where I just released an unboxing video, which is the first one I've done on the channel of the Kingsmen. So if you're curious to see what all those models look like, definitely check out that video. And I believe with that, we are out.